Okay, so I wanted to do a video to talk about what is yoga. There was a comment in one of the videos, one of the practice videos a few weeks ago, and a couple hours later this person took off the comment, but I did see the comment and I read the comment, and I think it's important to address it because it says Iyengar yoga. I use the term Iyengar yoga. And why Iyengar yoga? So her comment said, what does this mean if I am, whatever other last name, an Ayer or an Asalin or whatever, does it mean that I'm not doing yoga? I have to be an Iyengar to do yoga? No, that's not what it means, obviously. It's a way of communicating with each other more clearly. It's just a practical thing. Yoga is yoga. But saying Iyengar yoga is just a term, a practice, so that we know what we're talking about. There is yoga as a whole, Aṣṭāṅga yoga, Pātañjali's Aṣṭāṅga yoga. Mr Iyengar himself never called this yoga Iyengar yoga. He even said once, I saw in an interview, only I can do Iyengar yoga because I am Mr Iyengar, I am BKS Iyengar. In a way, it's true, but his students began to call this type of yoga Iyengar yoga because it was a way of knowing that they were talking about the same thing. They were talking about the same teacher, the same methodology, the practical methodology. Not the philosophical methodology, but the practical methodology. Because there is Aṣṭāṅga yoga, but not Aṣṭāṅga yoga as Pātañjali's 8-limb yoga, but Aṣṭāṅga is that yoga that is known through Pātañjali and then later on his grandson. There is, Bikram yoga, there is Iyengar yoga, there is power yoga, vinyasa yoga, yin yoga. So if we talk about just yoga, it's about just knowing, okay, if I go to class, is the room going to be heated to, I don't know how many degrees, very hot in Bikram yoga? Or, am I going to be lying down with my eyes closed as they do in yin yoga and they stay and they soften into the stretch, So we know what we're talking about. That's all. It's just a practicality, number one. Number two, so there is yoga. So what is yoga? Yoga is a school of philosophy. One of the 6 ancient schools of philosophy in India. So that's what yoga is. And a lot of people don't know that. Yoga is not downward facing dog. Yoga is not standing on your head. Yoga is a school of philosophy, first and foremost. And it's comprised of 8 limbs. Yes, that's number 8. 8 limbs. I can do like this. So what we're practicing and what Guruji Iyengar used to say is that I practice Aṣṭāṅga yoga, I practice Pātañjali's Aṣṭāṅga yoga. Aṣṭa, 8, aṇga, limbs, 8-limb yoga, because yoga, this school of philosophy is comprised of 8 limbs. Yama, Niyama, Āsana, Praṇāyāma, Pratyāhāra, Dhārāṇa, Dhyāna, and Samādhi. Yama and Niyama, so there's 8 limbs or 8 petals, 8 pillars. Yama and Niyama are our behaviors towards ourselves and towards the world. That's supposed to be the foundation. Asana is the poses, Praṇāyāma, we call them breathing exercises just for practicality, to be, not to get into whole details, but they're not exercises. They're breathing practices. Let's call them breathing practices. Praṇāyāma, breathing practices. Pratyāhāra is the going inwards, the quieting of the sensory organs and the drawing inside. We move away from the external world. All of our sensory organs pull us towards the external world. So it's that conscious process of involution and going inside. Pratyāhāra. Dhārāṇa, Dhyāna. Dhārāṇa is concentration. Dhyāna is meditation. So it's really important to know that concentration and meditation are not the same thing. If you're concentrating, you're not yet meditating. That's how I understand it. If you need to concentrate, you still have not reached what meditation really is. And then there's meditation, and then there is Samādhi, liberation, the top of the top, when you reach the peak of the mountain, the liberation. Yoga means union. There's that union when we're beyond all of these mundane things. But I won't get so much into details about each one of those things, but I just want to give you an eagle's eye view a little bit about what yoga is. So yoga is one of the 6 ancient schools of philosophy in India. So it's a school of philosophy. Yoga is a discipline, and that's important to understand. If you're not just doing the exercises, if you want to stretch your hamstrings, if you want to get more flexible in your shoulders, fine. You can keep it as an exercise, and it's really handy. But if you really want to practice yoga, it is a discipline and it is a school of philosophy. But it is a practical school of philosophy. That's why the practice of asanas is so important. You cannot stay in the head. It's a practical thing. So what was I talking about? I was saying that yoga is a school of philosophy, and one of the 6 ancient school of philosophies in India. And the Aṣṭāṅga yoga is the 8th limb. Okay, another way of saying 8. 8-limbed school of philosophy, this 8-limb practice. And Pātañjali is the sage who, we can say, as I understand it, systematized this practice. Actually, there's the Yoga Sutras of Pātañjali, which is a really important book if you're really serious about the practice. It's a bit difficult to understand, but you know, if you take your time and you go slowly, maybe. But it's an important book. And it's 196 phrases. I think it's 196. And in those 196 phrases, he explains what yoga is. He explains this 8-limb method. And Iyengar yoga is just because Mr Iyengar, Guruji, he goes about the practice in a different way. The yoga itself is not different, but how you do Trikonasana, how you approach Trikonasana, how you set yourself up. Do you use props? Do you not use props? How wide are your feet? What is your focus in the practice? That is very specific in Iyengar yoga, which will be different if you do a Trikonasana in Aṣṭāṅga yoga. Not Pātañjali's Aṣṭāṅga yoga, but the practice that came from Mysore that we call Aṣṭāṅga yoga. That's after Patanjali's. So I just wanted to give you guys a rundown on this, so that yoga is one. There's only one yoga, okay? But your experience in class will be different depending on what kind of yoga you go to, what kind of class you go to, yes? And within Iyengar yoga, or within whatever other kind of yoga, the teacher's perception and understanding of that practice will give you a different experience also. You can go to an Iyengar class and have an amazing experience, very interesting and very deep. And you can also go to an Iyengar class and have a very kind of flat experience, you know. I mean, I love Iyengar yoga, and I discovered Iyengar yoga in Studio Yoga in New Jersey with Teresa Rowland. She invited me to my first yoga class when I was 16 years old, I believe. And I studied with her and other teachers, Jenny Capular also for many years, Lois also, who I'm still currently studying with. But the first time I went to Pune, and I had my first class with Prashant Iyengar, it was like this amazing, it was unbelievable. It was Iyengar yoga. It was Iyengar yoga there, it was Iyengar yoga here. But he did not say, lift your kneecap, rotate your quadricep, lengthen here. He talked about cosmology, and he talked about philosophy. He talked about everything else that people don't usually talk about in class. So it was a completely different experience. It was still Iyengar yoga. It was Iyengar yoga in Pune at the house of the Iyengars. But so it's just the experience in class won't be the same. All right, video is getting long. Happy practice. And don't hesitate, if you have questions, please ask.